All right, I guess now we are on air. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
So,
wabarakatuh.
back again to our podcast here. Now, I'm going to be the host, while Randia is going to be the guest. All right, so the title for today meeting is Linear Approach for Explaining Complex Knowledge. Now, it seems very complex. The title seems-
I know. I always pick the complex one. I
Well,
wish I write the clickbaity title, but damn, I don't know.
but anyway, what is it, Ren? Please tell us.
Right. So, this past week I been writing some not paper like I'm in writing right for article maybe or for personal research paper basically. But in this so when I do that, like I kind of get some insight, when doing writing some stuff. So I hope this insight could be meaningful to everyone here, including you, Adil, which uh, you are now a PhD student, right? That's
Yeah,
amazing. That's I mean, I hope this is insightful to you, I guess,
yeah, hope
because I'm
so.
yeah. So what I want to show is actually like uh you I want to have this kind of imagination, imagine like you already while I'm screen sharing, right? I'm going to screen share. So yeah, so I'm going to screen share while it is loading. I want to imagine that you already like trying to gather you trying to literature study, and you already gather many paper, read many paper about this and that topic, and you now want to write it down into a paper or maybe try to explain it to other people.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
are very
that's
relatable right now.
right. I mean, right. I mean, yeah, I guess, right. I mean, uh, how do you do it? How do you pour? How do you explain it? How do you write it down into something that's well, for example, in the paper, maybe in the explaining to people, maybe how you make it engaging, or at least like easy to understand, or at very least not make people confused. That's
Oh,
the main point.
yeah.
So yeah, I wrote a paper about this,
Wait,
just a small
seriously?
paper, but I'm gonna explain it to Adil in this present slide format. So linear approach for explaining complex knowledge. Imagine you already read about a book, right? A book, paper, maybe you watch some seminar, you watch, you read journal, research paper, journal, thesis, maybe dissertation, and you want to explain it or write it down to your own research paper, or maybe you want to explain it to the teacher or maybe to general audience. How can you explain that?
Wait, you asking me or what?
Yeah, I'm asking you to be fair.
Oh,
What do you think, Adil? How do you explain it?
all right. So for me, I'm going to explain it by, of course,
Mm-hmm.
I create a script,
Mm-hmm.
and this script is something, if we are talking in context of presentation,
Mm-hmm.
well, firstly I will make a script about what
Yes.
I'm going to explain,
Okay.
and I have to make it like very very logical, like, oh, it makes sense or whatsoever. I think most people are able to figure out whether this script of them that they write is
Mm-hmm.
going to be easy to understand or not. So yeah, that's the first thing I will do. Write the script
Hmm.
of the presentation of my speech, and then after that, I'm going to create the slides, or
Slide.
if it is possible, yeah, the slides to help the audience to understand, to visualize the thing that I'm going to explain, or at least to be I'm going to be able to emphasize the points that I want to convey.
Mhm.
And then I also going to make the presentation looks very very um you know quite beautiful, because
Beautiful. That's
yeah, it's at least my favorite color if I want to present something is blue, because in color theory it will makes people calm down.
mhm.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to that's how I'm going to explain something to
Mm.
others.
Adil, have you ever encountered a problem where the literature when you do literature study like it at one topic like it kind of in it kind of very tangled a very tangled very complex things like you have to know
Ah,
this
that's right, that's
this
right.
thing or that thing and that thing too. How
Yeah.
can you condense it in just one in it, you said about script, right? How can you condense it into script like in the linear in the script of script is just like a text, a paragraph, right? That's
Yeah,
what
that's
I think.
right, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, how do
So
you do that?
so if I have this complex stuff that
Mm,
I'm going to explain,
mm.
well, yeah, I guess it will take a long time to create the script, of course.
That's true. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on people, of course, but I mean, I am too actually like getting such a problem like for many times. Like, for example, in my bachelor thesis, I have this outlier detection, and then there are like the type of outlier detection. There are the method approach, the approaches of outlier detection, and then also have this nuance about what kind of type of outlier do you search, what kind of data do you have, and so on. It's like it's complex, but how you define complex to people, it's another subject topic, of course. But here's what I and this is just outlier detection. There are other things like math and stuff like that. So here's what I found. You see, Adil, knowledge, first of all, communication, effective communication, as you might know, like you said before, like make you presentation beautiful, and you talk about script easy to understand. Communication, I think, is about telling a captivating story, right? You tell a story about things and that. Like Adil, you telling story about how to do literate study. You explain uh, things one by one. I think the best way to communicate is to be step by step, yeah, right? I mean, uh, one thing to another thing, and then maybe like a linear approach. Like I mean, linear. Like you tell one thing and then one thing. Speaking is like I think speaking is like that, right? At least watching, but also works in. So this is that concept of step by step is called linear approach. You don't tend to go everything like we as a human uh, get like follow the nature of time. You know, like time sequentially, like one by one by one. For example, like we speak like I speak one thing and then you speak another thing and I speak again reacting to that concept that you talk about, and then maybe that's the communication in form of talking. But in books you read it one by one, right, from chapter to chapter, like paragraph to paragraph, right, Adil?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, so book is another form of communication, of course, but in the form of text. But it's still step by step, chapter by chapter. Watching video is sequentially too, linear too. You watch the first topic and then they explain another topic and so on. That's linear. And so the first insight that you need to know is effective communication is linear. It's mostly linear. It's hard to not linear. Maybe there are something non-linear, like you
Non-linear.
going to into flash. Maybe if you telling a flashback or going into flashback or something, or maybe you give some image diagram. But I mean, diagram is when even if you telling if you give something that is non-linear like diagram, you still have to, when you perceive that diagram, you look parts of it one by one too. So perceiving knowledge is also linear because you watch it, a part of it, and then you understanding this part and that part, and so you get the whole picture of that diagram, right?
All right, all right.
So communicating is linear. Most best do it in linear way, and perceiving is also linear. That's the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
insight.
that's right, that's right, that's right.
Mm. However, knowledge is actually like a graph, right? A tangled web, not a linear path, like a graph, right? You have this concept and it relates to another concept, which also relates to another concept. This is best represented as, when you trying to gather a research paper, right, Adil?
Uh,
You kind of have this paper which reference to another paper.
oh, that's right.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like a complex web, like kind of like, yeah, like a graph. If you from computer science, I hope we both know computer graph, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know graph,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. It's
I know.
yeah. That's true. I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, it's not hard. I mean, it's the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge is often resembled as a graph rather than linear path. So that is the second insight, but it's just a definition. But so the main question that I want to answer is, how do you turn this graph of knowledge into an engaging linear communication,
Oh, I
right?
see. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have to explain this and that, but for example, like in when you're writing a paper of literature study, or for example, like in literature study, you tend to gather this knowledge first as a form of reading or maybe systematic review, and but in when you're writing the paper itself, you need to write it down one by one, like this one about a
Yeah,
for
yeah, that's
example,
right. That's right.
2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, 2.4, and so on. How do you squash it from this graph into linear linear communication?
Wait,
That's uh, yeah.
is it an open question for the audience or is it for me?
No. It's just a rhetoric
Oh,
question. Like I
rhetoric
want to,
question. Ah, yeah,
yeah. So this is the main question that I want to answer. So here's it go. I think this is the strategy that I acquired. My own strategy. I don't know if so. The strategy is actually begin the most important and easiest to grasp concept. So
Oh,
you have this important concept, like this central concept, right? Let's say you want to tell about, uh, well, I mean, I'm only know outlier detection, so let's go with that. So outlier detection, uh, I mean, there are so many way that I could tell you about, but I think I began with the definition. What is an outlier? Because first of all, it is the most important concept that I need to talk about to know all of the whole topics of outlier detection, and also I think it's easy to grasp concept. So let me just break it down. The most important concept means that you able to, so it covers almost all of the topics. Sorry, all the concept that you are going to explain is akin to like this connection right there. Like you have so many things related to it, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So you start with this one because it's many things related. So it must be important.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, so it's like Pareto principle, you explain one thing that going to cover 80%, and
Oh, that's
yeah, yes,
right. That's
that's
right. That's
that's
good.
I think
Analogy.
mhm, yeah,
That's
that's
a
a good
good
analogy.
relatable relate stuff. Yeah, you can relate that like that.
Yes, yeah, I think that's the first one. Begin with that, and easiest to grasp concept. What do you mean by most easiest grasp concept? It means whatever you want to say to people. I think it's best to start with what everybody knows, what the prior knowledge that people have.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
like for example, you explain this concept, right? And then you might start to another concept, this one. Why before this one, perhaps? Because although this one maybe this one connect this one, I think it's better. I mean, it's it kind of not a good analogy, but you start with this one to build knowledge to this one, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the more concept, the more preparation. So imagine that this is the hardest concept ever, and you kind of build up some prior knowledge before explaining this topic, the hard concept.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the two most important strategy there out there that I think the way that I would do it. Uh, Yeah, so select the concept that the audience can smoothly connect to their prior knowledge. That's the most easiest to grasp concept. So it doesn't matter whether you want to explain it general to specific or specific to general. For example, if you want to tell about general to specific, for example, if you want to tell about, for concrete example, you might want to tell about what is cell in biological cell biological in biology. You might want to explain cell before you want to explain how cell works, right, Adil?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
Or it works because you cell is the definition of cell is important, right, to understand how the whole concept of cells, right?
Yeah.
uh, but it also can be specific to general. For example, like if you want to know about register in computer science, you might want to start with logic gates, right? On transistor first, maybe transistor, logic gates, and then T flip flop, and then to register,
Okay. Now,
right?
in this register example, is it
Hmm?
general to specific or specific to general?
Specific to
Oh,
general.
specific to general. I see. I see.
Be- because you build up from the get go, like the transistor
Like
first, and
bottom
then go
up, bottom up.
bottom. Yeah, yeah, top, yeah, maybe it's the right way to answer it is like top down approach or bottom up approach. So it doesn't matter really whether you want to start with bottom up approach or top down approach, as long you begin with the most important and easiest to grasp concept.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
To the audience.
Yeah, at first, like I have this confusion. Do I start with the simplest things first, like bottom up approach, or should I say with general concept first, with uh, top down approach? But after a certain while, I imagine like this is depend on the topic that I
And the
really want to
audience, of
tell.
course, and
Yeah,
the
audience.
audience.
So yeah, basically, let's start with the most important and the easiest to grasp concept first. I mean, technically you have to balance these two, of course, but I imagine it's not that hard because the most important, usually the easiest one to answer the question, uh, to explain basically.
Right.
I mean, that's basically it. To be fair, I'm not going to be long in the paper, of course, but I think that's the uh, general explanation about this linear approach for explaining complex knowledge.
All right.
What do you think, Adit?
So let me summarize your
Mhm.
talk. So it is about how to explain something. You know, no, it's not how to explain something easy. You know,
Mhm.
it is more like um. No, 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 no. How do I say it? It's like the how to prepare how to prepare explaining hard concept. It's like that, right? Like how should we tips to prepare if we want to explain something hard,
Mhm.
something hard. So
Something complex.
something complex.
uh, I
Yeah,
mean, to be fair, yeah, that's mostly true. I mean, yeah, it's all true, I guess. It's a
and
tips.
yeah, tips to do that. And you see, Ren, look. So
Mm.
if I want to take something. Yeah, okay, let me summarize first of all. Okay, so it is about
Okay.
explaining something hard, how to do it. So first of all, it is about communication, right? And the communication is basically a
Communication.
story. A story is basically a sequence of stuff that kind of makes sense. And
Mm.
then in order to do that, we can start by looking at our audience. What are they? Who are they? What are their prior knowledge and stuff? And after that
That's true.
we can start with something that they know, and then whether it is top down or bottom up approach, it depends. Make sure that they understand at the end of the day. And yeah,
Mm.
usually it is about the easiest concept that it is to be able to be grasped. So anyway, Ren, you see,
Mm.
when I read this kind of stuff, we have to manifest it into a question somehow. So if I were to take from this talk, you
Yes.
know,
Mm.
there is one question that comes to my head. So let's say I have a problem, right? I
Okay.
have this presentation maybe a few days later, few days to go. So
Okay.
maybe the first thing that I have to ask is, who are my audiences? And then
Okay. Mm.
what are their prior knowledges, and
Mm.
after
What are
that,
they?
what is the easiest concept that they might be able to understand. And after that, okay, yeah, it is with assumption that we really understand the concept that we are going to explain, right? So
Mm.
yeah, we so yeah, the next so that question is, um what is the easiest concept that they might understand, and
Mm.
from that knowledge, how can I make it a captivating story? How can I make it a good story? How can I make it a logical story out of that easiest concept to grasp? And
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
I guess from that from those four questions, I guess I can make hopefully a good talk out of it. So yeah, is it the is it only four question that I can generate out of your talk, Ren?
Well, uh, I mean, sorry. First of all, that four question about what kind of what kind of audience is it? Is it an open question for me or is it just a rhetoric
No,
question?
no. Okay, okay. It is. So let's say. It is.
Sorry, sorry. Kinda.
uh, you know, um, it is like a
Uh-huh.
framework. A
Ah, yeah,
framework.
for bro.
A framework.
Let's see.
So the problem is doing presentation,
Uh-huh.
and then in order to solve that problem,
So,
I
yeah.
I have I can use these four
Mm.
questions in
That
order
four
to solve
question.
that problem effectively.
Ah, yeah. That's. I mean, okay, okay. First of all, your framework. I mean, it is works well. I mean, it is good. It assumes that you already able to communicate what things are you going to talk about, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's just the matter of how can you dumb it down or creating an effective communication to the audience based on their background, right? Audience background,
yeah.
correct? That's the main your framework does. In my case, in this concept that I talked about, it's not really about what kind of audience we have. It's about you as a person when you trying to write a story. Sorry, or when you try writing your knowledge into, let's say, a paper maybe, or a presentation, or talking to the people. How would you organize knowledge into text, maybe into something that effectively communicates to other people.
All right.
So it's
So
not about audience.
so
It's
it's
like
not about the audience, but all
it's
right.
more like about, yeah. Sorry, it's not about audience. It's more like when you organize stuff. Maybe you want to read it in the few. uh, you want to read it in the few months later or maybe in a few years. It's not just for other people, it's also for
But
you
for
in the
us, for
for you.
myself,
Yeah,
I
for
see.
yourself.
So this is so okay. So let's delete the first two questions.
Okay.
That who are the audience and what are the prior knowledge, because you explain this basically to yourself. You
Not
explain
to, I mean, to everyone,
to
but this
everyone,
is
but how we
the
organize it. So it is
yeah, yeah,
easier
the
to
main point
understand.
is how do you
So
organize it.
we
So you,
expect so we expect our whatever it is, our media or whatever it is, our script or presentation or book or paper or whatever it is, to be
yeah,
understood by general audiences, not only
I
specific audiences.
the main point was sorry, I think yeah, I mean that's true also, but the main point was because our medium of communication is usually linear. For example, like books, like imagine you writing a book, right? How would you transform this knowledge graph, which knowledge is best represented as at, into something that you can write it down paragraph to paragraph?
Oh,
That
I
was the main
see.
point.
I
Yeah,
see. So
so
it is like,
yes,
how do we make a story? How do we make,
how
yeah.
make communication basically. Yeah, so how you, yeah, so basically, yeah, how do you write it paragraph by paragraph if you have this complex web of knowledge, right? I mean,
Uh,
the worst way that you can do is to jump from this one to this one to this one and make people confused,
I
which
see.
which could happen and which does happen in some form, some paper that I saw, like some book, some bad books,
Oh,
maybe. But
some,
yeah,
yeah. I see, I see, I see. So you mean like, how do we, you know, make, how do we explain something so it can be, linearly, uh,
mm,
organized, so we
linearly.
are easy to understand it, and it can be it can be modeled in in this kind of graph.
Linear
I
graph.
see, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
like for example, do you want to start with explaining the different types of data, or do you want to start with different types of machine learning approach? That's the kind of thing that you need to consider, right? When you talk about machine learning. Yeah, do you want to start with the different types of machine learning, or do you want to start with the data, like the different type of data that could exist? That's a bit like, yeah, so this kind of branches that you need to transform it into the linear sequence when you writing a book, maybe explain it in the presentation, that kind of stuff.
I see, I see.
In the end, you see, the communication, yeah, it's like telling captivating story. In story, in let's say we talk about the story, there usually is a timeline, a historical chronological order.
Yeah,
For
that's
example, like
right.
one, yeah, so yeah, one, uh, yesterday, now, tomorrow, something like that. But knowledge doesn't have that, right? Knowledge doesn't have this kind of chronological order, so you have to think a little bit more creatively
Oh,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to do
Knowledge.
that. Yeah,
Oh, I see,
this
I see.
to do that, to have this kind of logical cohesion between concepts. This is the strategy that I advise basically.
So, how do you able to come up with this idea then?
Well, it starts with the problem first, and then try, I guess. I
It seems
mean,
like you are interested in creating a content, because like a presentation and then this one, your, your podcast seems like it is about, how to make a great content.
hey, yeah, I'm going to be influencer soon.
Wait.
No, 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 just kidding.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But uh, I mean, It's all about I mean, what I do is just hobby, like but a hobby, a really good hobby, sorry, not a good, sometimes a hobby like mine, like research, like doing an AI, like, I'm sorry, for example, for your context, like I am, for everyone context, I am like to research about AI, maybe just a hobby, of course, in math, of course, but and sometimes that kind of thing uh, outputs some kind of insight, right, Adil?
Yeah, yeah.
And those insights sometimes, some people want to keep it to yourself, some people want to share it. I am certainly like, some insight keep it to myself. Even insight that keep it to myself needs to be organized clearly, maybe through text,
Oh,
maybe through any kind of medium, really. But for me in the future, I hope when I read my text, my insight from previous, like from the past, I will be able to easily connect with it, like something like that. It's like when you write a code for a project, and 6 months later you read that code. If you don't write it well, you're gonna have confusions. So yeah, that's what I think. That's what kind of thing that motivates me doing this. So the you ask, how do I found this one? Well, it's basically I read. First of all, I have this prior knowledge of Pareto principle from Adil, from you, Adil,
yeah.
and then I have this background of like in the course of teaching with computers. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, this computer assisted.
Yeah,
Uh,
computer assisted teaching.
no, no. Computer aided instruction. Ah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Computer
I
aided.
computer aided instruction. I learned that you need a prior knowledge, right? Something like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it forms kind of a solution there. Like I just mesh it up together and try it, if see if this really works or not. And I think this is the best kind of way. This is the best solution that I have right now. Like I said previously, like I tried the top-down approach, I tried bottom-up approach, but it doesn't cover all cases. Like yeah. So like the example of bottom-up, top-down, bottom-up approach, it doesn't from logic gate to register. It doesn't work for top-down approach. Maybe if you're talking about computers, but in register you have to bottom up, so, something like that. Adil.
All right.
Yeah.
So you got this like from. Okay. So first of all, you have this problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
because you have this problem, you want to solve it in a way where it should be effective and appropriate, right, and accurate. So
That's
you
it.
come up with this linear approach to solve, like take the easiest concept, and then
Mm.
you kind of write down the whole information to be sequential, and then
Sequential.
yeah, you make this graph model so we audiences can understand what you mean.
Mm.
And yeah, you also take some reference such as from computer assisted instruction, aided instruction course.
Of course, yeah, it does need some kind of, so yeah, it based on, I forgot to put reference in this presentation, but
Hey,
I mean
maybe
this.
I think instead of writing a paper, I think you should make a medium blog out of this, or more better, you make a TikTok video blog.
TikTok. If I got time, I would, but I think first of all, this paper that I wrote is probably just for me and me only. So
No, man,
uh,
I think you should share it.
yeah, so Medium doesn't have this kind of draft like stuff, like, so the way that I do it is actually like writing. I have this latex template, so what I did is just write it down as a latex project, and then save it in my my folder, basically in my local
Oh, I
folder.
see. Okay, Ren, I guess because it
Yeah.
is already 14:51, we should
All right.
end our
And this,
podcast. So,
yes, yes, I know.
again, thank you so much, everyone, for watching, especially Rendia has become the host
Thank you.
guest for today. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.